It's 9/11, the 14th anniversary of the Islamic terrorist attacks on the United States, flying hijacked jet planes into the World Trade Center, another into the Pentagon, another aimed for the U.S. Capitol. It was taken back by American passengers who stormed the cockpit to wrest control away from the terrorists. 19 Muslim men working for Al-Qaeda, a name of a terrorist group that few people in the world had heard before then. We know it now. 3,000 Americans murdered that day, and of course it was just another domino. Terrorist attacks followed in the London subway, the Madrid subway, a bombing in Bali at a nightclub, and of course literally 20,000 other individual Muslim terrorist attacks, more than one a day, across the entire world, against moderate Muslims, against Christians, of course against Jews. Canada lost lives on 9/11 in those attacks, in those buildings, and we lost more than 150 more lives in Afghanistan, extirpating the Taliban from there. Thousands of Americans died in Iraq and Afghanistan, where a semblance of a liberal democracy was created. But in his haste to end George Bush's war, Barack Obama precipitously brought back all U.S. troops, creating a void that has now been filled by Al-Qaeda or the Taliban or the Islamic State, and most ominously by Iran as well. Muslim terrorism is stronger today than it was on 9/11. The Islamic State is truly a state where terrorists plot and train and kill and plunder and rape without interference from any government. They are the government. The last estimate I saw for the number of Muslim terrorists in the Islamic State itself is 200,000 terrorists. 9/11's not over. And 9/11 was perpetrated with hijacked planes. Now Iran, the world's largest sponsor of terrorism, has been given permission by the United States and America to have a nuclear program and a $100 billion signing bonus by the West. This isn't over. In fact, it's spread. Libya's dictator was toppled, replaced with Al-Qaeda and Islamic State terrorists. The Muslim Brotherhood briefly grabbed Egypt and still mounts terrorist attacks there. The world is in flames. Barack Obama didn't light those flames, but he fanned them, and he declined to put them out. In 2009, he gave his first major foreign policy address in Cairo, Egypt, where he introduced himself by his middle name, his Muslim name, Barack Hussein Obama. Take a look if you don't believe me.
Now, much has been made of the fact that an African American with the name Barack Hussein Obama could be elected president.
Barack Hussein Obama, and he said America would no longer try to shape the Middle East in America's image, and America would no longer intervene or interfere, and America would no longer judge Islam's interpretation of democracy. So 6 years later, see what the world looks like now. The West has retreated. America has retreated. Freedom has retreated. So other things are filling the void. In some places that's Russia, in others it's China. In the Middle East it's Islamists, both Sunni and Shiite. The world is a more dangerous place now than it was on 9/11. And the threat is not just overseas. Canada has more than doubled our Islamic population since 9/11. Now, of course, the vast majority of those immigrants are not terrorists, of course, but there have been terrorists amongst them. Various attempts, mostly unsuccessful, but several terrorist attacks have succeeded in murdering people, like on Parliament Hill last year. Amongst those million Canadian Muslims are true liberals and true Democrats who prefer our way of life and culture to their old countries, but too many amongst them do not. They're not terrorists themselves, but they support at least racist and sexist Sharia law. They disagree with, even despise, our freedom and equality for women, minorities, our pluralism. Look, the world is more dangerous now than it was 14 years ago. That day was a tragedy, but it was more than that. It was a mass murder, an atrocity, a crime, a terrorist act. Those who would forget that or hide that or revise that history aren't just putting us at risk for more, they're disrespecting the sacrifice of the 3,000 dead who were killed simply because they were free. For TheRebel.media, I'm Ezra Levant.